Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next The Promised Neverland manga review. This one is going to be for The Promised Neverland Volume 10. This volume covers chapters 80 to 88. This is also the first video where I suppose I've moved past the book releases, so the actual individual volume releases. 9 is the last one that was released in English. 10 isn't out until I think in physical copy sometime in, it's either June or July. So either we're still about a month away from it. So it means I have to move on to the Shonen Jump app here, where they do have all the chapters available, and go off that. It does mean it's going to be a little bit trickier for me to, in regards to showing stuff off and the exact way to do it. The way I have it here is that I have all 9 of these chapters from this volume open here in separate tabs, and I'm going to try and do my best to go through them in that way. And then I also have the app on my tablet here to show you something of note. Again, it pretty much just means I won't be able to show you guys as much stuff here as I would usually do with the physical book, but I'll do my best here. And the aim was, of course, that we're just trying to catch up to the releases. And we're still a bit off, but since we're going through it 9 at a time, we're going to be catching up in the next month or so. So anyway, where we left off was that we're right in the middle of this, I suppose, Goldie Pond uprising here. The hunt has turned against the demons here, and where we left off, Luce's been killed, Numa's been killed, and it seems like all the teams are working very well. There's still the tension around the fact that Emma is there confronting Luvis alone, and we haven't really seen what's up with Bayon yet. But so far, so good. No damage to anyone really, and it's all going very, very well. So when we start chapter 80, we see characters like Sandy here and also Sonia, basically dealing with the aftermath of this. And Noose then begins to eat Numa, and they begin to kind of freak out. There's definitely this kind of sense of anger towards what's happened, just because he gets so emotional, and Sandy's you have no right to be so emotional when you killed our family so kind of joyfully. So this is where the tables turn. After he eats Noose, he seems to get stronger, wilder in some way, and he begins to lead this counterattack basically. And we kind of cut away before we really see the results of what happened. But it seems like he completely turns the table on everyone here. So there's 4 of them here. There's Paula, Violet, Sandy, and Sonia. And just in a split second, it seems like he's taken them all out. And things are not going so well. So we cut back to Jillian here, to see what's going on, and they just kind of note that they don't have a lot of time yet. They have to move into their next position, and then we cut back to Luvis and Emma talking. So again, there's nothing too important here. It's just he notes she's the highest grade. She is from Gracefield Farm. He knows that her name is Emma, and what's interesting here is that Emma immediately brings up Lucas. She says, I have a message from Lucas. Was my arm delicious? And they begin to set up this idea of this back and forth that they begin to have here is Emma referencing what happened with Luvis when he hunted them in the past, and trying to turn that around on him to kind of keep him distracted. That he played a game with them in the past. What if Emma offers that exact same game to him now? What's going to happen there? And Luvis remembers it. It's not like he's just being pulled along with this. He's thinking about this the whole time. He knows exactly what's up. And he says, I'm so ecstatic, so very ecstatic right now, jubilant. He's very impressed that this is what's happening here. And she says, listen, Archduke, now is the time to play a game, just like that day. And we get the little flashback to him saying the same thing to Lucas. And that is the basic setup on that side of things. This is when we get Bayon, and Bayon basically is spotted by Jillian and also again, there's so many characters here trying to remember the names. Gillian and Nigel here spot Bayon walking around the forest, and this is when I suppose they realize that he probably sensed what happened to Luce, who was the first one who was killed, and has come to the scene of what happened to him. And that's what ends the first chapter here, just, you know, catching us up with a little bit of everything. But anyway, the big thing that they reveal going to the next chapter is that this is a problem. They shouldn't have come across Bayon on his own, because Zack and Pepe, they were the ones who were, I suppose, meant to deal with him. And Zack and Pepe are established to be like two of the best of the kids here. That's why those two pretty much alone were like said to be the ones to take him out. And you know, they do a lot of teases here over the next couple of chapters of basically showing like what characters think may have happened to their friends, or visually like they got hurt in some way, but it's shown in a way that is worse than it actually is. It keeps the drama up, but ultimately by the end you realize that, like, okay, they're not going to be killing off people left, right, and center. This is an Attack on Titan. It is still a shonen, and so they're going to do the shonen thing of anyone who dies is going to be treated as, you know, their death was a huge thing. So it's not just going to be a lot of needless death here. So, you know, it's still early enough in the series where like we're not overly familiar with exactly what way they're going to do that. So characters getting injured and so on, you kind of wonder like what the exact approach is. So some of it seems quite shocking, of just Nigel imagining, you know, Zack getting impaled at the same time as Pepe. As they begin to set up little bits and pieces here of the fact that, you know, Zack is one of the oldest members of the group. He knows a lot about treating injuries because he gets injured all over. And the idea is that he's kind of reckless, but he jumps into danger, and because of that he's, you know, exceptionally athletic and so on. So that's why he's one of the more skilled people, and that's why he and Pepe are the ones to go after Bayon. But they find Bayon alone. So what has actually happened, and Nigel realizes that they need to do this because their entire plan hinges on the fact that they've split up all the different demons into groups. They can't have Luvis team up with Bayon, team up with Noose, obviously the ones that are left. If they do, the plan goes up in flames because they won't be able to deal with, I suppose, the demons' teamwork, so they have to deal with them pretty much one-on-one. So Nigel and Gillian realize that they have to somehow deal with Bayon themselves here. But because they were meant to deal with another group, they don't have one of the guns that can shatter a mask. So they kind of initially go on with the idea of Nigel tells Gillian, you go to the position where Zack and Pepe were meant to be. You find out if they're injured, if they're dead, and what happened to the gun. If you can get the gun, I'll distract them. I'll be really reckless here. But what happens is that Gillian is like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. But as the reckless, I suppose, the suicide moment here for Nigel is about to happen, Gillian, says the whistle, sends out her whistle again to alert everyone to the fact that something's gone wrong. And she actually stays behind with Nigel, and they're both going to pretty aggressively confront Bayon here together. But it's clear that there is a little bit more of a plan to it than that. And that's basically what we'll get here. No one wants anyone to die, especially Gillian. And I think she actually really stands out from the last volume and also this one as just having a really good determination and getting right into the action. So I think that they did a good job at making her stand out more than some of the other characters. So yeah, they run away from Bayon. They can't do a lot to him. They have guns, but there's nothing much they can really do. They fire at him, but he just defends it. He's got his giant kind of like spear-like thing. And, the result of it is that they get into a conversation with Bayon where he says, and were you two the two who did it? The ones who killed little Luce? You killed him, correct? And Bayon's reaction to this is actually like, how wonderful. Like, he's happy that they actually did this, because he, like Luvis, but not maybe to the same degree, also enjoys a good hunt. And so the fact that the kids are putting up such a good fight is something that gets his blood pumping, and he's actually very happy about this. And this is what we're going to get into here, is I suppose one of the more interesting parts of this is I suppose the Bayon and Luvis backstory set up for basically why Goldie Pond is the way it is. He asked the question, how did you find out the way of actually killing us, given that you're from Grand Valley? He basically is asking them, who is the leader of this rebellion? And they figure out that's what Bayon is after in this. He wants to find the leader of this rebellion and take him out. That's his kind of goal in all of this. But they immediately go to run away to protect Lucas. And this is one of the first hints of this. Of like, you see this panel of Jillian getting slashed from behind. And again, visually the way they show it, because the blood is just like this black pool of blood just splurting out of her back. It ends up being like a meaningful injury, but nothing that is just so devastating. Again, she's young and stuff like that, so she'll heal from it. But the idea is it takes her out of the fight for now, and she is, someone who needs to be, carried away from this fight. And I suppose that's what they're doing here, is that the kids are skilled enough that they're agile enough to avoid most of these crazy, devastating blows being lethal. Like, she's quick enough that she dodges the lethal aspect of this attack and comes out of it with just an injury. But the result is that Nigel is left there with the situation of like, I'll kill this injured girl now unless you bring me to your leader. And it gets really dark here, as like Nigel, who's been kind of, pretty brave throughout all of this, kind of just, realizes that the thing that he has to do, and Jillian kind of urges him to do it, is to, you kill me. And that's what he says. Sorry, Jillian, I'll end your suffering right now. As she's kind of accepting this, that she'd, I suppose, rather die like that than be like mauled by one of these demons. And this is when Pepe shows back up, and they kind of tease the fact of like, okay, he's got some scratches all over him, but he's not really all that badly injured. So he's the one who says, okay, there is actually a plan here, let's take him out. And so, they realize they have to deal with Jillian, they have to try and get her somewhere so that she can be healed. And, Bayon is thinking this through, that like, okay, they're using like smoke signals and stuff like that, so they're going to take her away somewhere safe to their base. That's probably where their leader will be. I'll just, let them seem like they got one over on me, but I'll actually follow them and get to their leader, because that's what he wants. And, I suppose that's the setup of like, Bayon, is he just as clever as Luvis in all of this? Because it seems like everything is going so well. But we cut back to Luvis and Emma, and again they continue the dynamic of basically past and present. Present is Emma discussing the game with him, and then the past is getting to see Luvis propose this game to Lucas. And this is where we get the flashback sequence of Luvis explaining to Lucas how to kill a demon. To get any sort of enjoyment out of this, he wants to at least put himself at danger, so he explains to him how you die basically as a demon. And he says, it's our eyes. Under the mask in the center of our face, there is a core behind our eyes. If you break that, we will die. I'll give you 10 minutes, attack me as you wish. I'll also provide you with weapons that you can use. And it says, you can invite names scratched out as well to cooperate. And they have a little image of the fact that it's the guy from the shelter, the older guy who is currently with Ray on his way to arrive. Again, they're still holding his name back, so he's offering, bring him with you as well. He also says, I'll take my mask off as a bonus, and we get a look at his mouth, and the fact that it is pretty monstrous, it's got all the teeth and stuff like that, and we know the result of that game is that Lucas loses an arm, and basically everyone else is killed, and the man from the shelter believes that he is the only one who survived, but Lucas actually did as well. So Emma proposes, the same game, a fair hunt for 15 minutes, you won't attack me for the first 10, to give people a chance to arrive. So he basically ends up, agreeing to this, that like, if your friends aren't here after 10 minutes, then you better entertain me to the full extent alone, Emma. So, there's 10 minutes for Emma. We know beyond this, things aren't going so well for everyone else. The people dealing with Noose, something really bad has happened over there. Bayon is now hunting the others. Someone at least is injured. Who actually is going to end up showing up for the final stage of the plan for everyone to team up on Luvis is the question in the end. But anyway, we cut back to Bayon, and he realizes, they've snuck under this into this underground vault through some roots in a tree. That's where their base is, and that's where their leader is. He follows them, he's smelling them, he senses that they're right there. But as he walks into the most restricted area, he suddenly realizes that he's walked into a trap. Everyone's waiting there. There's characters like Oliver is there, Lucas is there, and Nigel, of course. They're waiting there with the guns, and they open fire on him. And the idea is oh wow, have they got him? They don't really show you visually anything that happened just yet in this chapter 83, but the idea is they actually have got one over on him here, which I think was pretty cool. But anyway, we move on to chapter 84, where I suppose we find out what actually happened with Pepe and Zach, and they talk about there's this poison gas. It's not slowing him down. They realize they're being read completely by Bayon in all of this. And he tells Pepe to run, and Zach will deal with this. And that's what allowed Pepe to sort of get away. So we're left with this idea that okay, Pepe kind of was allowed to run off because Zach confronted Bayon alone and apparently got cut down. We just see this kind of minor visual, the small panel of just Zach clearly injured in some way, but grabbing onto his leg. But for the most part, he's taken out of the fight. And then this is where we get the setup for the passage under the windmill, it being connected to the 5 entrances in the forest. And it's the fact that they've set up this thing that where they've lured Bayon right now, everyone pretty much had access to it from somewhere across the area where their hunt is taking place. So the whistle kind of was what actually set this up, and we see the result of it basically. So the Bayon's mask does get shattered in all of this, and they seemingly finish him off, but they haven't actually finished the job right yet. But before that, we do get the flashback sequence, which is set approximately 1,000 years ago, which is very, very interesting. And we have Luvis involved in this, and it's basically covering Bayon and Luvis's kind of backstory, a little bit of it at least. It says here, the humans won't hunt us, and we won't hunt humans. How are we going to eat humans without hunting them? Are they telling us not to eat humans? And this is where the proposal for the farms comes up. We'll create farms, we'll breed humans and harvest them. You will all be involved in the process. It's been decided, we are finalizing the agreement. This is the will of whoever the ruler of the demons is, the weird symbols that they have for his name. It's the will of him or whatever. I don't know what the terminology is necessarily meant to be for that. And we see Luvis is I suppose it's Bayon's backstory. He wants to hunt, how I want to hunt. And Luvis talks to him and says, how ironic to think you were in charge of 12 farms. And this is set 800 years ago. And he says, actually I invest in 24 farms, supervise 12 farms, and I'm in charge of 6 farms. And he's like, I would have never expected it from you. Your blood doesn't crave it? And he's like, it does, however. And this is where we get that over the hundreds of years after the promise was made, he wasn't just happy with eating humans from the farms. He had to have more excitement in his life. And so gradually, it I suppose, shows the gradual process of how this hunting ground came to be. Initially, he asked for the change from just, basically dead humans arriving in these kind of capsules to ship them to me alive. And it's revealed that, higher-ups are basically doing a favor for Lord Bayon because he's fairly high up by doing this thing of shipping him live humans, and that was at least something for him. He got to hunt one every so often, and it's, you know, all this thing of like he can taste his food. In the past, he lost basically the taste of his food because he wasn't hunting it in any way. And then over time, you know, it says, at first I had one human every 3 months, then one human every month, then 2, 3 humans, and so on. It went overboard, and he says, this is bad. Once I get greedy, I can't put on the brakes. I must remember that this is a secret pastime. And he's basically found out at this point by Peter Rattray. And this is where I suppose the discussion of turning the settlement into a hunting ground comes up, and it becomes what it is at this point. He says that the secret playground actually saved them, and that it is his hunting ground, and he won't kind of let it go down. So this is when it's revealed after this little flashback that he's actually still alive, and he attacks everyone. Everyone just barely manages to avoid him. He realizes that he has made a pretty big mistake fighting in such a cramped, you know, quarters when his advantage is his speed. And what ends up happening here, the finishing blow basically of this fight with Bayon, is that Lucas confronts him head on. He has a gun pointed right at him again. His mask is gone at this point, so bullets aimed accurately at his head will kill him. Bayon lunges in with his spear, about to, you know, take out Lucas, but it seems like Lucas has a gun pointed right at him. He's going to get him. But Oliver, who's behind all of this, because Bayon stepped past him, sees that the spear is just a diversion, and that he's actually going to kill him with his left hand, which he has ready to stick with his kind of pointy nails. Oliver steps in front of the secret blow, basically, as Lucas unloads on Bayon. So what happens here is that Bayon goes down. Lucas is left with Bayon's arm hanging out of him. His arm is kind of cut off in all of this. You know, Bayon's arm is. And it seems like, you know, at the end of chapter 84, you're wondering, like, okay, is it confirmed? Have they killed Bayon here? And is Oliver going to survive this? And what we get at the start of 85 is again what they've been doing for most of these chapters, is giving you a little bit of backstory on most of these characters who we don't know all that well, just to give them something. So we get a little bit with Oliver here, and how he was saved by Lucas, you know, all these times in the past. Again, Oliver is one of the older members of the group. That's why he's one of the sort of like inner circle of Lucas. And the idea is that he looks up, he owes Lucas so much that this is him returning that favor, like saving his life at potentially the expense of his own. And we see a replay of what exactly happened. He stepped in front of the blow. Bayon did get hit right in the head. He is killed. It's confirmed. You know, they I suppose send their message off that it has actually happened. So everyone else hears this. But he has suffered what is, up until now, what seems to be the worst injury so far, of like 3 or 4 of Bayon's nails dug right into his stomach. And immediately, because they're in their base, they do have the opportunity to immediately perform some sort of surgery on him. So at least they have that. And it's really dramatic. At this point, we sort of catch up with everyone sort of being healed. Jillian is revealed that, you know, she's recovering. You know, they've bandaged up her back, but she is able to still talk and stuff like that. She sees that Nigel is still alive. You know, Pepe was only able to give you emergency treatment. You'll still have to get better treatment in the aftermath of this. So people are getting injured, pretty badly injured, but like they'll be able to last a little bit, basically. Again, the aim of all of this is to take out all of these demons. Then everyone who's here at Goldie Farm can go back to like the actual shelter where it's actually safe, back where like Emma came from and so on, where the guy is. But anyway, this is where they again doubly confirm that they killed Bayon, and Nigel says that he's going to go to Emma because he has to sort of fill in. This is where they kind of get across the idea that, okay, with Zach injured, like we don't really know where he is. I think they say, I think it's around here where they say Pepe is going to actually find Zach and hope that he's still alive. Jillian's out of action. Oliver's out of action. and they were key people for the attack on Luvis at the end. What are they going to do? So Nigel is going in their place, and because he ended up getting out of that with nothing happening, and this is where you see Lucas as the leader sort of panicking, like he wishes he had both of his arms, that he was able to do a little bit more with everything that's happening. And this is where we cut to, I suppose, probably the worst thing to happen so far of this sequence here, where we go back to the team that's dealing with Noose, and the scene that we're left with is that it looks like they've all been killed completely. Well, not all of them. Violet is specifically noted to not be okay, but to be right there. But you see here, like, he's just holding on to Sandy right there by the head. Blood is dripping off him. And then you can see, let me see, can I hold that position there? You can see there, Paula, look at her leg. It looks like her leg is injured. Like, it's either a weak drawing or her leg is actually broken, and her other leg is at a pretty bad angle. Who knows what happened to Sonia? Again, tons of blood all over the place. And especially then when you see Sandy's head, like he's been like smashed, basically. So it's a terrible, terrible situation on this side of things. But again, when we cut back to it in a few pages' time, it's going to be revealed that actually Paula took a grazing blow of a spear to the shoulder. Ultimately, Sandy did just get like beat up, basically, rather than anything overly serious. I can't really remember the specifics of what actually happens to Paula, to Sonia, I mean, specifically. Again, I think she just gets cut by his claws at some point in all of this. But we see a brief flashback of all of this going down, and again, it looks really, really kind of crazy when they show it. Like, that looks like Paula just gets stabbed straight through the shoulder, but the injury that she later shows up with, I suppose, is meant to just be interpreted as she's running, diving forward, the spear just kind of grazes her across the back of her shoulder, more so than anything. But again, I think the approach they're getting across is that they're skilled at this point, so they manage to avoid lethal injuries. Otherwise, it would have been really, really terrible. The main core of Chapter 85 here, with everything bad going on, is to point out Violet, who's usually very calm and cool, collected under pressure, is freaking out. Like, she doesn't know what to do. Should she move to act? Will she just get killed if she comes out? And then someone touches her shoulder from behind. And it's the same feeling she gets when she's around Emma of something kind of different, something special happening. But it's actually Ray and the guy from the shelter. And they're immediately like, they want to get straight down to business. What's going on? Explain the situation quickly. It's not the usual hunt. What's changed in the last 13 years? So Ray and the guy from the shelter have arrived on the scene here, and things are about to get better. So immediately, Chapter 86 is our guy from the shelter jumping into action. We're going to get to see him hunting some demons for the first time here. We also get a quick cutaway to Nigel going out of the door. Adam opens it up for him. And later on, we get this setup that Adam actually isn't there when Pepe goes out to get Zach. So clearly, Adam is also left out the door as well. So he's there and thereabouts, and Adam is a little bit of a character who's like a bit all over the place. We don't really know what his skill set is or anything like that. He's obviously very big, so I assume he's strong, and he might play an important role in the upcoming fight. So that's really interesting. But anyway, Violet gets everyone up to speed. She basically says it's a rebellion by us humans. We're able to kill, Numa, but Noose, ate her, and now she's a beast, and now he's a beast. And then the guy from the shelter is just straight away like, we're changing plans. We're going to kill the demon. I'm going to go get him with my gun. It's going to be easy. I'm going to snipe him, basically. And this is where you get a little bit of insight from the guy from the shelter as well. He notes that, she, like Ray, Emma, and all the others back at the shelter, is kind of like them. Every word that she said, was meaningful. The rebellion happening now, it all sort of being inspired by Lucas. She realizes that, like, was she trained by Lucas? And he's wondering, is Lucas alive? Are you alive, Lucas? And so there's a certain drive now within him that's different from before, now that he has that hope that Lucas is alive. So he just jumps straight into action. Stay out of my way, I'm doing this on my own. And he basically, what specifically did they say? He spots him and says, he's practically a beast. He's not normal. If I just shoot, he's going to see me. I need to hide. I need to disappear. Hide my presence and everything else. So he just gets really, really quiet, really fades into the background, while obviously Noose here is still pummeling Sandy here. But as he's about to drive Sandy into the ground and, I suppose, finish the job, in motion, this is when he chooses to fire. He takes the shot, gets him center eye, takes him out, and is like, that's how you snipe. So really, really cool action sequence there from our friend from the shelter. But yeah, and then we cut back to Lubis, and he says, none of your friends have arrived. It's just about been 10 minutes. But she notes back, but none of your friends have arrived either. So what's going on there? And Luvis is just like, yeah, they're all probably dead by now, and that's fine. I noted the whistles just like you did. Probably Luce first, then Bayon, then Nu and Numa. That's probably the way it went down. And she's just like, do you not care about your friends? And he says, I never thought of them that way. But now that this has happened, it's true that I am somewhat sad, especially Bayon. I've known him for a long time. We understood each other in many ways. Before the promise, we used to hunt together often, a true hunt. And he says, truly a pitiful being, but I'm sure he had fun at the end. He had his wish fulfilled at last, to get to enjoy a true hunt. Absolutely magnificent indeed, as he just basically takes a step forward and just appears behind Emma. And this is where they get across just how different he is than everyone else. She didn't even see him move, and he already just appeared behind her. He could have killed her there and then, but he chose not to because he's playing the game. He doesn't want it to be that simple. And he's wondering, like, how many are still left after everyone else being killed. And as the countdown happens, we get things jumping into action here, going into chapter 87. She notes that she senses that Nigel is up in the top stairs of one of the houses in a sniper position, and figures out that, okay, we're in a pretty bad situation. A lot of our top people have been taken out, injured in some way, but at least there are some people here in all of this. And she's like, I can't die. I have the pen. I have to make it through this no matter what. So she tries to convince him. It's an interesting conversation. She brings up the idea, maybe we don't have to fight. I can't condone your hunting for sport, but she's like, I also hunt as well. I don't know what's right, but I don't want anyone else to get killed. That's why I want to end this hunting ground. But she's like, she gets across this idea that, like, I'm not, like, angry at you in a way that, like, I don't want to, like, just kill you out of, like, pure violence. I'm doing this because, like, basically for her freedom. And she's like, if there's any way where we don't have to fight, I'm willing to do that. And she points out that Bayon, owner of this hunting ground, is dead. Can we stop this? That way you won't have to die, none of the humans will have to die, and so on. And Bayon's kind of like, oh, so you haven't lost your will to fight, but no. He's like, I want to hunt and kill you, and I would die happy if I was hunted and killed, and if I was hunted and killed by you and your friends. You have beautiful ideals, but the world isn't made of just ideals. One's sense of values, or what's beautiful or what ugly, varies among us too. Don't think we can understand each other. Our only option is to be in conflict. So he does ultimately just want to hunt, and he's fine dying if he was hunted in the same way. And that's all that he wants. So it's this simplistic view of, like, he doesn't really care about these ideals or meaningful speeches. He just wants this battle, this hunt. So Emma realizes this, activates the switch, and suddenly all these automatic guns that they've basically set up, these contraptions around the houses, activate, guns drop down out of the windows and open fire. So it's machine gun fire all over the place, and it seems like they've got Luvis straight away, but we're going to see just how strong he actually is. But anyway, Violet returns back to the shelter where everyone's getting injured. Pepe has brought Zack back at this point, and he is alive, even if it's not great. They note that he's still barely breathing, but it's not looking good, that they'll need better medical attention. And that's when we see Pepe kind of head out to join the battle again, and this is where it's noted that Adam is actually missing. But at the end of chapter 87, we cut back and we see that Luvis has actually caught all of these bullets. So what looked like about 20 or 30 automatic weapons, he's caught all of the bullets in his hands, and he just notes that I got hit a bit. So he didn't catch every single one of them, but the fact that he caught most of them is incredibly impressive. Nigel is shocked by this, and Emma is just determined that Nigel has one of the guns, the special guns that can break the mask. We're set on it. This has to be the thing that we do here, is to break the mask. And that's exactly the way Luvis is thinking. He's also like, first you'll break my mask, isn't that correct? And that you all have the weapons to do so. That's how you killed everyone else. So he figures out their plan. As much as he wants to hunt and stuff like that, he's not just going to let himself be completely outdone in tactics here. He knows that he's up against people who can kill, so he can't go easy on them here. So I do think that's pretty interesting. Okay, so Pepe joins the fight at this point, so more and more of them are arriving on the scene here. And they have a brief flashback about how the ultimate plan is that in the village, that is their opportunity to take out Luvis, because they can go indoors and corner him, and we can set the trap there and attack. And that's part of what they've already done. You see Emma going inside to houses, the same with Pepe, as they begin to set up these kind of traps around the place. But Luvis goes after Pepe first, knowing that he was setting one of the traps. And it seems like he's about to take out Pepe, but Pepe activated this kind of spray of water. Emma rushes in with an electricity line and electrocutes Luvis. And this is this kind of shocking plan. How is this? Is this what's going to win the day, basically? But he blocks Nigel's shot, and it seems like everything is in a really bad situation here. The one shot or chance that they had is now over. But as it's revealed that he blocked it, and he blocks it using this kind of crazy, technique thing here with his hand, basically. He puts his hand in the way of it and stuff like that. And he knows that he's never been electrocuted, but he's interested by it. He rushes to go after Emma, and suddenly is hit in the face and his mask explodes, as well as his hat falling off. And this is where it's revealed that the guy from the shelter is on the rooftop just above him. He fired the shot, he took out the mask, and reveals that Ray is here as well. It's been a while, Luvis. So very interesting ending to the volume there, of just his main defense is down. They've got some really good people now on the scene. Ray right there, the guy from the shelter, and other people with the potential to arrive at any point. So very interesting, but again, the setup that Luvis is better than anything we've seen before. It's still going to be crazy difficult to actually win this in the end. So yeah, that's been my thoughts on the chapters that make up Volume 10 of The Promised Neverland. Next week we'll move on to the next 9 or so chapters that will be basically Volume 11. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on these few chapters here. Again, mainly an action sequence, but I think some very good action in all of this. This is like the first, in a way, big action sequence of the series, so I really like what they're doing with it. There's definitely some weird stuff about like how unspecific at times they were about like, oh, has a character just been insta-killed or not? Or have they actually been injured in any way? And ultimately they're like, okay, it's still shonen. They're not really going to do anything that crazy. But at the very least, characters are getting injured. They're out of the fight for now. And it's important to note who is able to continue on versus who isn't. And they're putting a little bit of a timeline on it as well, of they've treated them there, emergency treatment, but they need full treatment or else they're actually going to die. So, you know, I think there's a lot of good stuff going on here. Not a lot of character focus just here, apart from a little bit of backstory with the demons. But I overall do like what they're doing here. So that's my thoughts on the chapter, and that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.